All right, welcome back. For this next section, what we're going to do is start looking into the theme. We're going to start by looking at the theme that we have active right now, which is the 2020 theme. And then we're going to go and we're going to load some new themes onto the website and activate those other themes. I want to show you how to go find themes, vet those themes similar to plugins, how to load them, activate them, and then customize them. So we're going to start with the customizer, which is this big blue button right on the dashboard. So I've gone back to the dashboard from the plugins page where we were. And I can click right here on customize your site. I could also go under appearance and customize here. And you might need this in case you have dismissed this message and you weren't sure how to get back to that. So I'll go into the customizer. And again, we've got the 2020 theme active. So this is kind of a new interface from what we've seen throughout the day. And here what I can do is I can interact with this left-hand side, or I can interact with some of the elements directly on here. So for instance, I can come over here, click on this pencil, and this is going to jump me on the left side to where I need to be in order to edit this. So I'll start with just changing the site title. And since we've gone with this WordPress 101, we'll stick with that for right now. And for the tagline, just another WordPress site. That's kind of the standard for all the WordPress sites that get set up. So let's just do something just like not just another WordPress site. For logo right here, we've got two other things. We've got logo up top and then site icon down below. So I'll click on select logo. This is again going to let me upload an image. I'm going to go ahead and I've just found this the stock photo in a folder that we've purchased long ago. So go ahead and select this this square tree logo. I'll get that added. One thing I wanted to point out for the naming convention for this, try to get in the habit of this. It's a good idea where, you know, this is a square tree logo, and then I've got 512 at the end. That's the size. So if you're going to be going in and naming or renaming all your images, you know, put some keywords in there. But then also, just for your own sanity, when you're looking through the gallery, it's sometimes nice to have the size of the image in the actual file name. It's not going to help you with SEO or anything like that, but it's just nice to kind of start a trend like that. So we'll select that. See, in this case, what it wants us to do is it wants us to crop this image down because it's only got a fixed size. So we can scale this out and we can say, you know, we're going to go with that entire image. And we'll crop that image down. And there we go. And so what that's going to do is it's going to replace that site title that we just set, the WordPress 101. So one thing that you might want to do especially if you're in the process of designing a new logo is, you know, you always want a couple variations of your logo, and you want a square logo and ideally you want a horizontal layout. So if we wanted to have WordPress 101 as part of this, we could put that text out to the side of where this actual image exists. All right, there's an option down here for Retina logo. I think this is specific to Mac. Retina is, from what I understand here, it's kind of twice the pixels inside of one pixel. And so there's an option there for like a high resolution screen to display a more dense image there. That's about where my knowledge of that stops. And then down here below, we've got the site icon, also sometimes known as a favicon or favicon. This is why I set that size of that image to the 512 mark. So I'll select the icon and I'll do the same thing. I'll pick that logo. Those could be different if you want them to be. And what that's going to do is if you look up at the very top of my browser into this tab, that's where that's going to actually show up. It's going to put that right next to the name of the actual site. So that's just kind of a nice little branding element to add into the mix. Okay, so that's everything on the site identity tab. I'm going to click this little left arrow, and this is going to jump us back to the top level of the theme customizer. Next in the line here, we have colors. So we've got background color and header footer background color. And then we can also come down here and we can set default or custom. So for instance, for this background color, let's go ahead and select this. And we've been working with this tan. This is the hexadecimal code that we've got in here. Let me copy that just so I've got it on the clipboard there. And I could go ahead and say, let's set that to white. And notice what that just did. It just bumped up this image and we lost that little area. So that kind of cleans that up and makes it a little bit more organized. And then as we scroll down, we've got this nice, clean kind of white background. I'm not saying that you necessarily need to have a white background. It's completely up to you, obviously. But you know, Google from years back has kind of set a standard for like a nice, clean white background, a lot of space, a lot of padding. And sometimes these days, with as many distractions as we have on the internet and just in the world, it's sometimes nice to have kind of a clean layout like that. And then we can also do header and footer background. So let's go down to the footer, and you know, everything below this line is technically considered inside of the footer. And so here again, I can kind of play around with this, click around between these different colors. Maybe let's go back to that hexadecimal that I had before. So let's clear this out and let's see if I can paste in that tan color. There we go. So now we've got the background is white, and then this this lower section is tan. Let's go to the top and see what that might have done to the top. And see, sometimes, you know, you might want to set one color in the top and one color in the footer. And here's where we start to understand that certain themes have certain functionalities and certain levels of customization. And sometimes you might get frustrated that you just can't make something look the way that you want it to look. And I guess my biggest piece of advice here is don't try to fight the theme too much, especially if you're not a coder. Or if you don't have access to somebody who can go in and kind of style this stuff out. Themes are easy to change. Not to say that you want to be changing it often, but this is just kind of a stock cookie cutter basic, really basic theme. It's the 2020 theme. It's really just meant to kind of be a beginner's theme. There's lots of themes out there. I think these days there's about 7,000 or 8,000 free WordPress themes that are hosted on WordPress, and there's probably another 50 to 100,000 themes out there. Beyond the WordPress repository. So keep that in mind. Sometimes what you'll run into is situations like this. This logo that I added, it does not have transparency, and so we now see this big white box that's in there. So I'm gonna roll this back just so that we don't have that messy looking tan color kind of creating that weird, awkward square right there. And then the primary color here, this red, that you can see this red that shows up in the menu right here. That's where we can go through and we can adjust this. And maybe let's go and try to find a green that kind of matches the green in our logo here. I think it's further towards the left. Not going to get it spot on, but we'll get it kind of close. So, and as we can see, apply a custom color for links, buttons, featured images, and so on. So there's a little difference between those two, but we're getting close. All right, we'll go ahead and jump back. I'm going to go ahead and, just like with pages and posts when you're editing, go ahead and kind of publish often. It's a bummer to kind of roll through a lot of these things and then leave and accidentally realize you just lost all those changes that you spent time working on. All right, theme options is next. This is going to let us set some settings. I did just notice that this little search icon that used to show there, that magnifying glass, that is now hidden because it was white and it was on the tan before. We're going to turn that off altogether, and that should, give it a second, yep, and then that brought that completely away, so that's okay. Show author bio, that's going, I believe that shows up down at the bottom. I'm not positive about that one. It's hidden now. And then on archive pages, posts show. And so an archive page is basically like the top level blog page in a sense. So an archive page is a page that shows multiple postings, for instance. And so on those pages, should it show the entire text or should it show just the summary? And you can actually navigate inside of this. And so here we can go through and we can play around and change these out. So what that just did is it's going to kind of truncate down and show either the summary or the full text of the post. Notice we just got the full text back instead of the little dots, as we can see right there. All right, we'll go ahead and publish that. And we'll go back. And let's go to cover template. So I'm going to jump back over to the home page for this one. Okay, this next one is cover template. And I had to pause the video there for a second and kind of dig in to make sure I can walk through this cleanly. So, and hopefully I did that. So what I'm gonna do is cover template. And this first one, settings for the cover template, page template, add a featured image to use as a background. And so what this means is, we talked about this briefly earlier, but we kind of skipped past it. So here's that term parallax that I mentioned earlier. And what I'm gonna do at the moment is I'm gonna go ahead and right click on one of these pages and say open in a new tab. I wanna leave this customizer open. I'm gonna open another page in another tab, the about page. I'm gonna go over and let's go ahead and jump back to the admin side. I'm gonna go to pages. Let's go into the about page. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna do two things. I'm gonna set a featured image here to represent the about page. And then I'm gonna come down here and change the page template. So first let's set the featured image. Let's go to the media library. Let's go ahead and use this picture. We'll go ahead and set it as a featured image. And at the moment, nothing really changed. But if we come down here and set the page template to a cover template, we'll go ahead and update this page. All right, so we've just set a featured image and we changed the template related to this theme. So let's now jump back over to this. And what I'm gonna do is go ahead and jump to the about page where we just made that change. And what this has done is it's added the big giant image on top. It has, we now see that white frame is really causing issues. So another reason why you might want to use a logo with some transparency to it or a PNG file. And this fixed background concept, again, is a parallax concept. So now when I scroll, we get that parallax showing up right there. If I uncheck this one and I scroll, notice it stays fixed. So that's another good example of where you can use this parallax to kind of create a subtle, a real subtle look. And these are neat little settings to do. You can click this little down arrow. It should anchor us down to the page content. So that's kind of nice. Obviously, if you go this route, you're kind of making a decision to alter, significantly the layout of a particular page or multiple pages. And we can, play around with those different page templates. I held off on talking about this at all because this is kind of like the next level up, and it's a next level of kind of customizing this specific theme. And if you end up changing the theme, then those page templates are going to go away. So just a nice little feature that you can add into the mix. And again, we can continue to kind of customize the look of this overlay concept, this big hero image overlay. And so this overlay background color, it's going to default to whatever the accent color was set to, which remember we tried to match that green in the logo. That's why it has this green, greenish tint. And so we can come in here and we can kind of fine tune and let's go ahead and get something in the blue range. And we get that nice Blue Ridge Mountain look. We're kind of messing with all the colors now, so we're not ending up with a very pretty site. But again, I'm just kind of trying to explain the different options here. And then for the actual color overlay, you're going to want to make sure that the contrast between those two is looking good. And then down here at the bottom, the last thing is the contrast of that actual overlay. So just like we saw with the cover block earlier at the very beginning, you can basically change the opacity to get to a real nice looking layout. This is kind of a cool way that you can have one page that's a little bit more unique. So you could either set that for the home page, or if you have, let's say a gallery page. Let's say you're building a photography website, and you might want your gallery page to have a nice quality photo up top, and then as you anchor down, maybe down here add a gallery block or a carousel block or something like that. So let's go back to the home page, see how messed up this looks at the moment. Not too bad, not too bad. Let's go ahead and publish. And we'll jump back. And then the next one down here is background image. This is going to replace this white color here. So we can go in, and again, we can go in and select a particular image. And what that's just going to do is anywhere where there's not an image or a piece of content, as you can see down here, what happens is it's going to drop that back in there. So this is pretty bad. So let's do this. Let's remove this one. Let's select an image. And I think I actually have, if I upload another image, I do have this texture in here. I'm not saying this is going to be any better, but just to kind of give you an idea about how this might work. There we can add in an image. Here's an example of where you might want to use an image that's really large so that you don't get this tiling effect. So you might want to put in just either like a slight texture or some kind of gradient so that it's not creating this really big contrast here. And then you can do presets based on these different things. So if you don't have an image that's tile to not tile, you can set it to stretch. You can set it to fit to the screen. Different things like that. Repeat would essentially be how it was before. And then you can position that image anywhere you want. So I'm going to go back to default. We've made this thing pretty ugly at the moment. So I'm going to remove that, and we will publish again, jump back, and we'll go down into these next couple here. So one of the things that I don't think I've mentioned yet is that this customizer has a few redundancies in the sense that there's items in here that we've already dealt with. We're now in the customizer, and we can go in and we can play around with the menu. We can create a new menu. We can look at all those different locations that we talked about before. And the real reason why you might work with the menu inside of here is because this gives you this little live preview. So you can actually, you can set these different menu spots and you can adjust and jump between pages. Whereas if you are working with the menu under appearance like we did originally, you can't actually see the website as you play around with it. I'm going to leave that how it is because we've only got this one menu, but you can go in and you can create extra menus. For instance, footer menu, let's go ahead and set that to main. And now when we go down towards the bottom, oops, scroll down. Now we've got a repeat down here at the bottom. But say, for instance, you might want to list out your social media accounts down here. You could create a secondary menu and put that social media menu down here in the footer, and then have your primary menu up top. So we'll leave that in place. We'll publish and jump back again. And it's time to kind of take a look at widgets. So we haven't done this yet. As I mentioned at the very beginning, all of these things down here are different widgets. We've got 6 different widgets showing, and they're showing in 2 columns, or the footer 1 sidebar or the footer 2 sidebar. They're not technically on the side, but they're still considered sidebars. So if I open up the footer 1, I see, and these will match from the left to the right. So we've got search, recent posts, and recent comments. And this is just like building out the menu. I can drag and drop, and those will change around almost instantly. Also, if I wanted to remove any of these, I can open up the little down arrow. I can remove them like that. I can change in this case, I can change the number of comments that show, or I could kind of override what the title is that shows up. So in this case, I'm going to leave this how it was. Let's go back to search, posts, and comments. I'm going to jump back over and go into footer 2. So archive is going to give us a quick link to go to the blog posts that were published in a given month. The categories is going to show us what categories we have blog posts that exist in. At this point, we only have 2 blog posts, and they both are in uncategorized. And then this third one down is the meta widget, which are kind of like a quick link section for site administrators. So there's site admin, log in, log out kind of things. The feed for the WordPress feed, same for comments. This is on RSS feed, and then a direct link back over to WordPress. A lot of times we'll go in and remove a lot of these or customize them, but we definitely remove this this meta from most sites. And so that's as easy as it is to just hide that. We can also add a widget. And just like with blocks, it can get a little overwhelming. There are a lot of different widgets in place. There's some kind of overlap between the blocks and the widgets. For instance, there's a Ninja Forms widget. So let's say we had some sign up for a newsletter form that we built out with Ninja Forms. We could add that widget. And then what it's going to do is it's going to go look at that plugin and it's going to look to see what forms exist. And in this case, we only had that one contact form. So this might get a little crowded down here by doing this. And so that's a pretty big form to have in the footer, unless, let's say, unless we were to get rid of these other two items and maybe move these into the footer 1 section. And then we'd have, you know, all 5 of those, and then maybe the contact form over on the right-hand side. So I'll delete that one. And we'll go back to add widget and just kind of look through here. Again, there's some overlap. There's a video widget. If you just need to put in, let's say, some contact information, here we can get kind of a little mini WYSIWYG editor. And so we can have, you know, contact details. And then we could go in here and kind of build out phone number, email address, physical address, things like that. We can also put in little images. So you could even kind of fill up some social media icons or whatever you want to do there. I think that's all the widgets that I want to talk about at the moment, especially because once we change the theme, which we're going to do in just a few minutes, we're going to have to reset a lot of stuff. We're going to have to reset the widget settings, and we might not need any widgets or want any widgets with the new theme. So I don't want to spend too much time here. I'll go ahead and publish just so that you can save those changes. And we'll go back and we'll look at this next one, this homepage settings. Again, this is redundant. We already did this. We did this under settings reading earlier on, where we changed it from the homepage shows the latest posts. We set static page, homepage is this homepage, and then the post page is the blog page. So we've already dealt with this. And then this final item down here for the customizer is where we could add in some custom CSS if we have written any to kind of override anything inside of this particular theme. Again, the goal with PreCamp is definitely to keep this as basic as possible. We're not going to dig any deeper into this area at all. Okay, that covers the customizer, and it covers the customizer specific to this theme. And why I say it that way is because as soon as we change the theme, we get a whole new set of options. We'll probably have all of these still in place, but more than likely we're going to get some additional items and additional settings based on how that new theme was built out. So before we do that, before we change the theme, the last thing I want to point out is down here at the bottom, you can scale the site down, again, just to check and make sure that the work that you're doing and setting backgrounds and things like that is working well within the different screen sizes. So there's tablet view, there's a mobile view. So it's important to check these things, and they've made it really easy to kind of jump between these different display types from right inside of the customizer. Okay, so we're getting ready to kind of jump into the wild, wild west, and we're going to go pick a couple random themes, and we're going to change it and just see what changes and see what breaks. Before we do that, I'm going to take a break, just a short break, and ask for any questions. Again, everything that we've gone through so far is specific to the 2020 theme. As soon as we start changing themes, we're going to get a whole nother batch of items over here and some new things to kind of explore. So